This week on the Four Rivers Ag Report, we've heard from Washington, but what about you? What do you want in the Farm Bill? Also, is Big Brother listening? And is that a good thing? And Kansas is closer than you think. That and more on the Four Rivers Ag Report. The Four Rivers Ag Report is underwritten in part by
the Department of Geology-Geography is a proud sponsor of the Four Rivers Ag Report and provides integrative learning opportunities for students and the community to explore the physical and cultural world near and far.
Welcome to the Four Rivers Ag Report. I'm Fred Peralta. It's December. You made it through a wet spring, a dry summer, a surprising harvest, and you even made it through Black Friday, although that's one holiday that really scares me. Now, if we can just get through December and get a farm bill, it'll be an eventful year. Now, trying to follow where we are with the process may be better served with a Ouija board than a newspaper, but I use the website farmpolicy.com, and every day I go from hopeful to hopeless in the same paragraph. The House is back in session, and the Senate will be soon. The Conference Committee has been working hard to bridge the gap between the two versions of the bill. There has been optimistic talk of concluding this process, but will the committee find their way to bridge the philosophic differences on nutrition programs and commodity programs? Well, meanwhile, the voices outside the House and the Senate chamber are sounding off on the need to pass a bill. And Tuesday, Agricultural Secretary Tom Vilsack once again emphasized just how important a farm bill is for producers, landowners, agribusiness, even conservationists. But enough of Washington. I'd like to hear the thoughts of someone who actually breathes diesel fumes for a change. And for that, I talked to Jim Breed, a farmer from Monticello and a member of the Illinois Corn Growers Board. And with me now is Jim Reed. He's a farmer just north of Monticello, and he's also on the Illinois Corn Growers Board. And Jim, we hear a lot from politicians. We hear a lot about the folks who have big lobbying groups. But what do producers are thinking about the Farm Bill? Why do we need a Farm Bill?
For producers, there are some very important business planning tools included in the Farm Bill. First of which is crop insurance, which has become the number one risk management tool for farmers. There are a number of variety of tools out there, one of which would be like to go on the Board of Trade and hedge your crops. But crop insurance is the most used and the one that farmers are most comfortable with using, in that they can go out and, when they secure a loan at the bank, part of that security is the bank would like you to have insurance, same as for your house. So, that's a very integral part. And in the drought of last year, there are a lot of farmers that if they had not had that crop insurance, they would have, been in dire need for economic help. I think it's important that people understand as part of this discussion that, the crop insurance is not free. Farmers pay, a significant amount of the premium for that insurance. The government helps subsidize it, which was created when they started crop insurance to get private companies incentivized so that they would go out and deal with it.
Right. Crop insurance is you're paying for the insurance. It's subsidized, but it's there. And most years, farmers could go a whole lifetime and never use it.
Yeah, I think it's important people understand that there is a gain on crop insurance in years when money is not paid back to the farmer. And that gain is divided between the private insurance companies and the government. There was a lot of talk last year about the amount of money the government would have to pay out on claims, but a lot of that debate missed the point that for the previous 10 years, the government had made money on crop insurance premiums farmers paid in that they had no claims against.
Now, you talked about other planning tools, business planning tools that's in the bill. What are other sorts of tools are there in the bill that farmers need and use often?
Title I of the Farm Bill is basically the commodity programs, which provide a safety net, contingent of the Farm Bill also. In the past, ever since about 1996, we've been trying to transition away from direct payments. And farmers as a whole are in favor of this, and especially in the Midwest, of trying to go to a revenue-based program. The ACRE program, which was included in the 2008 bill, is a rolling average revenue program. And what it tries to do is to effectively create somewhat of a slow decline in profitability when we see the kind of drop we have in commodity prices this year. If we lost $2 on the price of corn from last summer to this summer, all the people that supply us with goods, their pricing is based somewhat on the price we receive. They set their margins off of that, so they need time to adjust. So this Title I, really the intent there is to help transition from one plateau of pricing to another. And I think a lot of people, they used to know, but maybe they don't today, that farmers, we don't set the price of our products when we sell them. That's done by speculators and end users at the Chicago Board of Trade. So we have absolutely no control over what, we get for our price. We're price takers, not price makers.
And it's not pure supply and demand, is it?
No, I mean, every time a government comes out with a report on their estimation of what supply and demand is, the traders use that as an issue to use that information to trade off of. And the pure speculators in the market, they don't really care. They want the market to move up or down based on where their position is and where they think it's going to go. A lot of people think that's not good, but it helps add liquidity to the market so that when a farmer or elevator does want to go hedge their crop, there's someone to buy the other side of that position to make that transaction complete.
So one of the things I've read about in the Farm Bill that they're talking about is tying commodity support to conservation. Is this something that the average farmer even thinks about?
Oh, very much so. And actually, that's been an important part of the Farm Bill for several years now. Conservation compliance also came back in the 90s. And for Title I programs, that's been in effect for a number of years. The move right now is to tie it also to the crop insurance subsidies, which would be brand new. Corn Growers has worked with a number of the other commodity groups and with a lot of the what I would call hook and bullet clubs, Pheasants Forever, Ducks Unlimited, in developing what we think are some very reasonable conservation requirements to continue to get crop insurance subsidies. We want to be the best stewards of the land out there, most responsible farmers, while you hate to give the government and government regulators a reason to come check on you. I think we feel confident enough that we can comply and let the public know that we think that's important, and we want to strive to be the best, stewards and conservators of the ground that we can be.
Well, Jim Reed, a farmer north of Monticello, thank you so much for giving us your side, and let's hope they wrap this up in the coming weeks as opposed to the coming months.
Yeah, who knows? They got very few days left. For farmers, we're only like 12% of the $500 billion bill. The rest are nutrition programs. So we're, still a lot of money, but in the scope of the whole bill, it's not the largest part.
Right. Well, Jim Reed, thank you so much. We hope to talk to you again soon.
All right. Thanks, Fred.
I'm Casey Berry, and here's a look at your farm news for this week. Well, the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Commodity Credit Corporation on Monday announced interest rates for December of 2013. The CCC borrowing rate-based charge for December 2013 is 0.125%. The interest rate for commodity and marketing assistance loans disbursed during December of 2013 is 1.125%. Interest rates for farm storage facility loans approved for December of 2013 are as follows: 2% with 7-year loan terms, 2.625% with 10-year loan terms, and 2.875% with 12-year loan terms. And farmers who have borrowed money have gotten used to rates like this. Gary Schnittke, an agriculture economist at the University of Illinois, says that we might not expect these low rates to last. In an article on Farm Doc Daily, Schnittke points out that from 1985 through 2013, 10-year rates decreased an average of about 1/4 of a percentage point each year, leading to a reduction of 1 percentage point every 4 years. Schnittke says it's unreasonable to expect similar reductions in the future. He adds that given the end of decreasing rate periods, farmers may wish to build more safety margins in their investment decisions. And if you need to be particularly careful when you borrow, Who might be concerned with that? Well, how about equipment manufacturers? John Deere released their fiscal fourth quarter report and published their snapshot of the agricultural sector. Deere projects global sales will decline by 6% next year as commodity prices decline, which will in turn hit farm income and dampen demand for equipment. We've talked on this program a lot about the emerald ash borer and the devastation that it can cause. Out west, the USDA is helping to fund an effort to turn trees killed by beetles into biofuel. The USDA's Bob Ellison has more.
Beetle-killed trees in the west rot and become fire hazards, but a U.S. Department of Agriculture grant could help turn these trees into biofuel. Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack has announced a $10 million grant for the effort, led by Colorado State University.
To begin figuring out additional ways in which we can use the diseased wood that we now unfortunately and tragically have a great abundance of in our forest systems throughout the West.
Pine and spruce bark beetles have affected 42 million acres of U.S. forests since 1996. Those acres contain a plentiful source of biofuel.
And we've got to figure out ways to get it and to use it. And this grant will allow us to continue working on the capacity to turn that diseased wood into fuel.
Dead trees can be a good source for renewable energy. So in the case of the bark beetle infestation in the West, one of the things we've been looking at a lot is, can we be using some of these trees for domestic renewable energy sources?
Turning beetle-killed trees into biofuels is in its early stages, but Marshall says USDA funding will help to get it going.
USDA has an initiative called the Wood to Energy Initiative that involves several USDA agencies. So we've been part of that big change, but there are a lot of biomass facilities that have come on stream in the last 3 years.
In Washington, D.C., for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, I'm Bob Ellison.
Purdue and University of Illinois researchers have discovered a corn mutant whose leaves are highly susceptible to attack by western corn rootworm beetles, a pest that feeds primarily on corn silks and pollen. While western corn rootworm beetles were previously thought to avoid corn leaves based on food source preference, study of the mutant suggests normal corn plants have an active defense mechanism that deters the beetles from feeding on their foliage. The hope is that the mutant corn could be planted in one area away from the main crop and used to lure the beetles to a specific location where they can be controlled. Christian Krupke, assistant professor of entomology, says that once you can get them where you want, you can use efficient, cost-effective ways of controlling them, either by directly targeting and eliminating them or by keeping them away from your main crop. And speaking of genetics, a new genetic condition has been identified in the leading breed of beef. It causes embryo loss and deformity in cattle, but researchers say it's not time to panic.
So one of the things that producers should remember is to stay calm. This is a condition that's very manageable. It affects a pretty small frequency of the animals in the population.
Researchers in Australia discovered the condition called developmental duplication. It's caused by a mutation in the genetic sequence of the animal and affects many popular Angus bloodlines. However, not all cattle are carriers of this genetic condition. Weber's advice for purebred breeders is to do genetic testing on their animals.
Our perspective over the last few years across the beef industry has changed about how to really manage these kinds of genetic defects in light of some of the new DNA technology that's available for us to use.
Genetic tests cost about $20 to $25, and Weber says even if cattle are diagnosed with developmental duplication, the breeds can still be profitable. The cattle can be mated with other animals that do not have the condition. And finally, Illinois is already home of Metropolis, but now we're also the home of Smallville, or at least the Kent's Farm. The website comingsoon.net broke the story that film crews were preparing a farm in Yorkville, Illinois to serve as the location of John and Mary Kent's farm in the new Batman vs. Superman movie scheduled to be shot next year. Yorkville is near Joliet. No word yet as to how the Kent homestead will be tied into the story. But it's nice to have the Man of Steel be a hometown boy. Well, that's it for this week. I'm Casey Berry.
And with me now from the Illinois section of the NASS is Mark Schleichner. And Mark, you've been on a little bit of an adventure lately, haven't you?
Yes, I have, Fred. For the last year, I've been working in St. Louis on a temporary assignment. That was focused on the 2012 Census of Agriculture.
How does one do that project?
The first thing you do is you make sure you've got a lot of smart people ready to do a lot of hard work. You also need a lot of good computer systems.
Okay.
And for the most part, the thing that we can't function without is we need the cooperation of farmers.
Okay.
So what I did in Illinois, in St. Louis, was we hired a group of people, we trained them, we provided quality assurance, and we made sure that they were correcting mistakes that need to be corrected.
So you did a lot of training, you did a lot of calls. When can we expect the Census of Agriculture to come out? There's a lot of good detail in that.
There is. The Census of Ag is the only national county level source of information for all things agricultural, including demographics of farmers, age and gender and race. In February, there's going to be a preliminary release, and that will include farm counts by state, and also those farm counts will be broken down by size of farm, type of farm, and the demographics of the producers themselves. So a count of farms operated by women, and a count of farms operated by people of Hispanic descent, and things like that.
So that's not the only, but that's a big one that's coming out in middle or late February. But there's other reports you guys are working on these days. What's some upcoming reports you're trying to gather information for?
Sure. With a December 1 reference date, we have two big projects that we're in the middle of right now. We're contacting crop producers all around the state of Illinois, north, central, south, large, medium, and small, and our goal is to finalize the acreage yield and production of the row crops in Illinois. So our last forecast in November, we had a 49 bushel soybean yield and 180 for corn, but the crop was not entirely harvested.
Right, we were harvesting all the way up through the end of this November, right?
That's right. So there's room for those numbers to change, and that's why we're doing this December 1 project. Now, producers may get a phone call from a 314 area code. That's St. Louis, and we have a group of people making phone calls down there. And I want to give a nice shout out to the people that do our interviews. They're the salt of the earth. They've been trained, and a lot of them have farm backgrounds, so they know that when it's milking time, they need to stop the interview and let the farmer do his work. And we need to be respectful of the producer's time, farming, ranching, any type of agricultural enterprise, and they all know that.
So there's a lot of information gathered, and farmers are a little bit leery about letting people know too much about their business. How can they be sure that they're not giving away the farm?
Understood. And it is a big issue that we need to address constantly. Because we are a government statistical agency, the data we collect are confidential by law. They are protected from, for instance, the Freedom of Information Act. And when we publish our results, in particular, if you go down to the county level, to small groups, sometimes one large producer, you could almost give away his or her totals by publishing the county total. We have rules that restrict us from doing that. We make sure that we're protecting the individual reports of all producers.
The field crop report's only one of the ones you're gathering in December, isn't it? There's another report.
That's correct. And I need to say one more thing about crops.
Okay.
The final corn, soybean, hay, and sorghum yields we published January 11.
So
we're also doing a December 1 hog survey. So we're contacting hog producers around the state to determine inventory, farrowings, and such like that.
So there's a lot going on. If you get a phone call from the NASS, please give them their information, right? It's going to be carefully guarded.
Absolutely. And that is our most important lesson that we teach to everybody is we need to be respectful of the producer's time. And these data are important to the agricultural community.
Absolutely.
We're all used to hearing statistics like, oh, the gross domestic product or the inflation rate or the unemployment rate. Other people are doing those surveys. My job is to measure agriculture. And the important issues are, acres of corn and number of cows milked and how many pigs were born in the last year. Those are the things I do to help provide insight into the American agricultural economy.
And it's information that is used in hundreds and thousands of different ways. So it's important stuff. So Mark.
That is absolutely right.
So Mark Schluchner of the Illinois Department of the NASS, thank you so much. And we'll be checking back with you when you got some reports to talk about.
You're very welcome, Fred.
Thank you.
And now we're joined with our friend, a family life educator for our local extension office, Sherry Burcham. And Sherry, you must think I come from a very dysfunctional family, because every year about this time I talk to you about family dynamics and the holidays. Now, we got through Thanksgiving and we got through Black Friday, but we got the big one coming up, don't we?
That's right. Yeah, I think we have the biggest holiday event of all.
Yes. And Christmas time is one of the times where it can be tough a lot of different ways. How can we deal with some of the Christmas stress?
Well, according to Mayo Clinic, they say there's 3 things that trigger our holiday stress, and one of them is financial, which is pretty obvious. You know, everybody's spending money like it's not there, right?
Yeah.
And they also say that our health, is affected because we're out running around trying to go to everything, and we're not exercising like we should. Maybe we're overeating, possibly,
Possibly a bit, yeah.
And then also the third is the relationships that is a trigger for stress.
So you can reduce stress by maybe not spending as much, by making sure you pace yourself. But the family thing is one of those things that gets tough, doesn't it?
Yeah, especially, one thing is your own family that you see every day, it's a high stress time because of our schedules being busier and everything. But then we also are facing those relatives that we don't see on a
Uncle
regular
Ed,
basis.
or Uncle Fred, as the case may be. But
you
yes, it's people you don't see too often. You're supposed to like and love, but sometimes you can't stand, right?
That's right. That's right.
So how do you prepare yourself to handle that obnoxious guy in the corner?
Well, hopefully my family isn't watching. No, I know. Actually, you go in, with a positive attitude, for one thing. You don't want to sit there and dread, I'm going to have to go see this person or that. You want to go in with a positive attitude, but a realistic one.
Okay.
You don't want to put these people up on a pedestal where, they're going to be perfect today, because they may not. Or vice versa, they're going to be awful. You just want to go in and try not to, bring up big topics.
Big topics,
big touchy topics.
Okay.
Well, we talk about, no politics, no religion, no sex.
If you have a Packer fan in the family, you don't.
And sports, right, right. So, but also, touchy family topics that maybe there are some impending decisions needing to be made in the family or what have you, but this is not really the time. You're all together, but yet this is to be a lighthearted holiday type.
That brings up a really good question. Families are so spread out now, and it's often tough to get together to talk about some of these items that you really need to talk about.
Right.
You think, we'll all be together on Christmas.
Right.
Should you or should you not?
Well, logistically, it can be difficult, and nowadays it's a little easier with the technology that we have. We can Skype with each other and communicate a little bit more. But I'd say that at least in the general family gathering, noon on Christmas Day or whatever is not at the dinner table's not the time.
Not the time to talk about what we're going to do with Grandpa.
Right, exactly. But you can bring, you can pre-plan and say, okay, we're going to have a time that we are going to discuss this off, without the rest of the whole entire family listening in, and you can have those discussions.
Now, we mentioned financially trying to reduce the amount of money you spend, and that's so hard to do at this time of year. How can you prepare yourself and your family for maybe a simpler gift-giving scenario?
Well, just like my family a few years ago, we all felt like we had to get everyone something. And just a simple, okay, if everybody agrees to this, we're just going to have an exchange and you're only going to spend this, and get everybody to stick to that. Just don't do the drawing too early. We did that in May and now we can't remember who we had. But that sort of thing, or, just agreeing on the ground rules and trying to kind of rein that in. I think another thing is that people pay attention to the exact monetary values so many times, and they feel like they have to get the exact amount. And that's not necessarily so. Nobody knows exactly what you spent, and it's, again, the thought that counts, right?
It's the thought that counts, and you know, if you go in with a good attitude, perhaps you can make this whole thing the wonderful Christmas you're supposed to have. Well, Sherry Bertram, thank you so much. We'll have you back.
Thank you.
Well, Jessica's off this week, but here's a look at this week's Inside Extension. Do you have an interest in gardening? Want to learn more about gardening, fruit trees, and how to manage insect pests? Well, if you've answered yes to these questions and you have time to volunteer in the community and share your knowledge with others, then you may be interested in becoming a master gardener. Training starts in January and applications are due December 20th. Visit the Extension website to learn more. This year's University of Illinois Herb Day will be on Saturday, January 18th from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. at the Holiday Inn Hotel and Conference Center in Urbana. 3 guest speakers will be there, as well as a retail area selling a wide variety of herb, spice, and gardening products. Registration is required. Visit the Extension's website to learn more about the guest speakers and the Herb Fest. For U of I Extension serving Coles, Cumberland, Douglas, Moultrie, and Shelby counties, this has been your Inside Extension.
That's it for this week. Work hard, be safe, and enjoy the beautiful sunsets. I'm Fred Peralta, and thanks for watching the Four Rivers Ag Report. The Four Rivers Ag Report is underwritten in part by
The Department of Geology-Geography is a proud sponsor of the Four Rivers Ag Report and provides integrative learning opportunities for students and the community to explore the physical and cultural world near and far.